just from one email, my life has completely changed.
It's pretty sweet, man.
But you can also look at that in another way and be like, no, the work that I did to position myself to when I sent that email, and he would actually look at myself, because at the bottom of the email, I put my TikTok, and Gary is definitely the type of guy who's going to look at it and be like, all right, let's see if this guy really has posted 4 times a day for like the last 6 months. Right. He's like, okay, holy shit. Yeah, he really has. Okay, boom. Like, hey, come up here. Like, let's chat.
All right, guys, this is Craig over at the Battle Plan Podcast, and we are talking with Ryan Hernandez right now. This is going to be an interesting one because it's a little bit off of the typical structure that we're going with, but this guy caught my eye on TikTok. I was out there posting some reels or doing something, and he was just spitting fire at me, talking about these IULs, and we're going to get into that today. And, this guy's an expert, 21 years old, living in Manhattan, making 30 grand a month, and, just crushing it right now. And he said just before we got on this thing, I want to be the single largest IUL distributor in the United States. Isn't that something? That's a mission statement right there. So this guy's making it happen and, helping people out in the meantime. These are a pretty interesting concept what these IULs are going to be. All right, yes. Ryan. So let's get into this. You're 21, you're in New York City. You just started a financial services company. And this podcast is really about, the struggle that you go through in life, so we've all had them. I'm 40 at this point, so I've probably had a few more than you. But I mean, yeah. I can assume that anyone who's successful has overcome something and has been in pain and can inspire that person who's sitting there that is just stuck, needs direction, needs some guidance and mentorship. And there's another cool thing that you told me right before we started this thing, that Gary Vee is your mentor. So you're going to have to get into that story as well. So kick it off. Tell me your story, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I would say that I am an entrepreneur at heart.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from a small little country farm town called DeKalb, Illinois, Northern Illinois. Not sure if any of the viewers are familiar with the NIU Huskies. It's just Northern Illinois University. That's the town I grew up in. Only like 40,000 people, cornfields everywhere, soybean fields everywhere. Pretty small community. But I would just say that starting just from a very young age, right? From the time I was like 11, 12, I would go around and I would walk my neighbor's dog, for $5, like for, like a couple of rounds around our block and stuff. I would go knock on people's doors who I noticed like their lawn was a little bit long, and I just knock and be like, hey, like, can I mow your lawn? Or, during the fall, I would go to those same people's houses and ask if I could rake their leaves. During the winter, I'd go knocking on doors.
So you're the annoying kid in the neighborhood that's just looking for money and doing odd jobs to find it. All right. Got it.
Everything did. Yeah. So
go to college. Where do you go to school?
I went to one semester of college, Los Angeles Valley College. So actually when I was in high school, I started a side hustle. I started a car detailing business. And so, I kind of blew that up. I, grew it to the point where I even had my own shop that I was working out of. And then, I was in my head, man, I knew that I belonged in like a big city. I belonged where the opportunity was. And I had my eyes on Los Angeles. Like, I was like, I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to move to LA. I was telling my friends, I was telling my parents, everyone's like, you're crazy. It's so expensive. There's no way. And I'm like, okay. So I was just saving money, right? I'm just detailing cars. I'm charging like $350 a car. I'm saving every penny. I'm also working at a hardware store at the same time. So I'm doing both of these things while going to high school, while being in track and in football and stuff too. So I was just constantly just go all the time, right? Finally graduate high school. A month after graduating high school, picked up all my stuff, sold my car, packed my stuff in my dad's car. He drove me out to California, dropped me off. I lived with my grandma's brother, who I had only met like one other time for like 2 months, and super grateful that he like let me stay with him for about 2 months. And then after that, like I moved there knowing that he was like, yeah, I'm just help you get on your feet, but you gotta like find your own place, because there wasn't really that much room for me. He was right in the middle of moving and stuff too, so he really helped me out there. then from there, I, made some friends at the college that I went to, Los Angeles Valley College. I was going to school for business entrepreneurship. And then basically from there, I just, one of my buddies, they had an extra bedroom at his mom's house. So I just rented out that room for a while. And then COVID happened. So I was working at a knockoff of Jamba Juice, making like dirt money. Literally my rent was like $600. And this is the first time I'm paying rent. And I'm like looking at my bank account. I'm like, holy shit, dude. I don't have enough money, like the juice bar closed down because it was on campus and school was shut down. So
Right.
the juice bar was shut down. And I'm like, holy shit, like I've only been living here for like 6 months. Am I really gonna have to like move back home? Like, did I really move?
How bad
all
does
the
that
way?
feel? I mean, that
Man,
pain,
dude.
I've actually experienced something similar in my past. I
Yeah.
moved to Florida, and it was after I had this big like going away party for me, all my family, and three ex-girlfriends were at the same party, and my wife actually today. It was some big crazy mess. It was a hot mess that my parents set me up with. There's definitely a story behind this for another episode, guys.
Yeah.
But I leave a good thing that I have in Connecticut, move to Florida, and I'm down there. And the opportunity that I left for to open up a mortgage office with a partner that I probably should have done more due diligence and had a stronger contract with screwed me over 3 months in. And I'm like, I said the exact same thing you did. Am I really going to go home with this defeat? Am I really going to go
Yeah.
home like with my the dog with the tail between his legs, right?
Yeah.
How'd
Yeah.
that feel?
That it felt like shit, man. I just felt like, it didn't last long though, right? I was just like, man, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I really just don't know what I'm gonna do. And then I had to pivot, you kind of like recollect yourself. You're just like, all right, that's not happening. I'm not moving back home. I'm staying here. This is where I'm meant to be, right? And so then there was this restaurant that was still open, because some restaurants closed, some restaurants didn't. I'm not going to name them because I don't want them to get in trouble, right? But I got a job as just being like a busser, right? I was just being a busser. I was helping with takeout orders and all that stuff because everything went boom, like straight to takeout orders. So I had to pivot, got another job. I guess like the indoor seating was closed, but the takeout orders was open. So I was just doing that, right? And then from there, I had to get a job at Vons, which is like a grocery store, as a bagger. And I was doing that. And then, this was all like still in March, like when everything closed for COVID, right? And then a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, wait, I took welding job. I took welding classes in high school. Why don't I look for a welding job? I know those pay well because I was paying my rent and I had like $17 like to my name, right? And so then like I just start, looking up all the different welder, like metal manufacturers and welding places around me, going to every single one, trying to see if they're hiring. Eventually this guy is like, yeah, sure. Like lay a bead really quick. I just like welded like 2 or 3 things. He's like, okay. And like, he's like, I'll call you back in a couple of days. Never heard from him. I was like, damn, I really thought that was going to be the guy to call me. And then I called him back. He's like, nah, I don't really need help, but I know this other guy down the street. He does way more business than me. He has a pretty big shop. It's called Aussie Steel. Why don't you go see if they need help? So I walk into their place. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a job. I used to work at a restaurant, I'm not making enough money. I'm working at Vons and like all this stuff. And it's the same thing, kind of like a trial day. Like gave me a couple projects, welded them all up. And then they gave me that job. And I'm like, yes, finally, I'm not making like minimum wage. I can have like a little bit more money. Right. And then I'm working there for like 2 weeks. Then I got COVID and that knocked me down. I was like down for like 2.5 weeks, dude. Like I was like, every time I'd stand up, I'd have like a crazy headache. I felt extremely tired. Like it really hit me hard. And then I came back from that, was still working there. But while I was doing this job, I had like nothing else to do. And so every second that I was at that welding job, I had audiobooks playing in my ears. I was listening to YouTube videos. I was listening to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was listening to the
First book I ever read.
Yeah, no, that book literally, that was the first
Robert
audio book.
Kiyosaki.
Yeah. And I got into that mindset where I'm like, okay, I need to change this stuff now. Because at first, like, I was just like, yeah, I want to be like, business major and get into business. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to own a business, but I didn't really know exactly what it was. Then, I started getting into real estate wholesaling, looking into that. Actually, no, first I did Amazon FBA. I started finally making some money doing welding. Dropped about like $2 or $3 on a product to launch a product for Amazon FBA. Completely failed. That was like a disaster. So I lost that money. So I quit Amazon FBA. Then I started looking into wholesaling. And this app called Clubhouse, which I'm sure you are familiar with, I was on there like in all these real estate rooms, and I'm just listening to all these real estate investors, and they're all like, telling their own stories and stuff like that. And I noticed a trend that almost every single one of them was talking about like, yes, I made my money, I made all my money in sales. Then I reallocated that money into real estate. Now I'm in real estate. And, really the people in this room were mostly from California. So they're all like solar sales. Like I was a solar salesman. And, some of them would say life insurance. Some of them would say life insurance. Some of them would say like tech sales. But basically the trend that I got is that they were all in sales first. That's where they all made their money. Then they got into real estate once they had money to actually play the game of real estate.
Right.
And so I was like, dang, I need to get into sales. And so I just started doing a bunch of research, sales jobs, and I started DMing every single real estate investor that was talking about like how they were in sales. I was DMing every single one, asking them like, hey, are you still in any way, shape, or form affiliated with like that sales job that you were doing back in the day? Is there any way you could like get me in on that or this and that? And then one of the guys was just like, yeah, I mean, like I was in life insurance. I did that for a long time. I made X amount of money. He kind of like told me his whole story and stuff like that. And then that's when I was just like, dang, I think that's what I want to pursue. So then I got my license. I worked with a broker dealer. Then after I kind of literally learned and like started, working and doing what, like learned how to do the job. Right. Then from there, after I made my first $10,000 in like my first 3 months, then I was like, holy shit, like this is the most money I've ever made in my entire life. This is crazy. Like I've made $10,000. Like first I made like 5,000, like the first month. Then the second month I made like 10,000. Then I made like 12. Then I made like 18. And then I was like, Jesus Christ, like this is insane. And like,
What were you doing to get leads? That was actually my job out of college, or my job while I was in college as a intern was to be a financial planner. And so that was a big pain in the ass, just trying to like dial the phone, a zillion times a day, trying to get leads. Then the job I went to afterwards in Florida was a mortgage broker. So again, same thing, hammering the phones. What were you doing?
Yeah. So like I was mentioning to you, always listening to audiobooks, always listening to YouTube videos and stuff like that. Gary Vee was a main guy who I was listening to. I would say I resonate with him probably the most. And that led one thing to another. And now I'm literally sitting at VaynerX, at VaynerMedia. Like,
yeah, if you guys are listening, he's literally sitting at VaynerMedia in Manhattan. And he had mentioned Gary is his mentor, and we're gonna get into that 2 seconds. So are you saying you were making 5, 10, and then 20 and 30, whatever you're making now? Mm-hmm. Was that all via social, or was that,
through all social media leads?
Wow.
And it's all from listening to Gary Vee. Gary Vee preaches one thing: stop caring what other people think about you and just make the content. Post 4 times a day. Now is the time to do it. The TikTok window is closing, right? You can get crazy amount of organic traffic right now with TikTok. And I'm here to say that Gary Vee is not full of shit. It is real. I've lived it, right? Like I literally did it. I followed his recipe. I just implemented it into my own business. And, I've made at 21 years old, I've made, over 6 figures in a rolling 3 months. In 90 days, I made 100,000. And so, which is crazy. And it's all like literally just from listening to him. And so I listened to the book, Crushing It. I watch like all of his YouTube videos, like really just getting that mindset down, right? Really kind of positioning myself and really putting myself in his shoes and being like, okay, how would he deal with this, you know? And then from there, really after I crossed over that six figures line, I was on a Clubhouse listening to him speak. He just happened to be taking, like, he never does this, but he like took a week off, and he happened to be in Florida visiting his parents, and he was on a Clubhouse with somebody, and I have all of his post notifications turned on for everything, right? So I'm at the gym, literally working out, and I get a notification on my phone that's like, Gary Vee just tweeted a link to hop on a Clubhouse room. So I hopped on it, and started listening, and this guy is like trying to pitch this one thing to him, and then Gary's like, nah, you know, show me your results in a year. And then the guy's like, okay, how would I show you? Where should I send my results to? And then Gary goes, Gary@VaynerMedia.com. And I just like take out my earpiece. I'm like, babe, right? Like text me this right now. Text me Gary@VaynerMedia.com. Like text me his email. And then right when I got home, dude, typed up an email. I was like, hey, Gary, I live on 32nd and 3rd. I'm 21 years old. I've been listening to your content. I've crossed over six figures in the last 3 months, literally because I've been posting 4 times a day because of you. I have 350,000 followers on TikTok, all this stuff. And I'm like thinking he's not going to reply at all, right? Like, I'm just like, yeah, this guy's not going to reply. There's no way. In like less than 40 minutes, he replied. And then he's like, Tyler, meet Ryan, which is like his go-to guy. Like Tyler's here in the office all the time. Tyler's gotten mentoring from Gary for 9+ years. Tyler owns his own, marketing agency as well. You know, it's under the umbrella of VaynerX and stuff like that. And so then I just came into the office, sat down and met with them because they invited me up. And I'm just freaking out, dude. I'm like texting and calling all my friends. I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like, I'm literally going to meet Gary. I'm going to VaynerMedia. Like, this is crazy. I don't feel like life is even real right now. Like all this stuff, right? Completely like fangirling. And then like I get there, sit down, chat with them. And, basically, right. I'm just like, we're just talking. And, towards the end, it was more like, I just want to keep coming. Like, I just want to be here. Can I work here for free? Like all this stuff. And then eventually it was just like, we have the space, just come up here whenever you want, like come hang out. Like if you got questions, come ask us. Like the next day they invited me to come with them to Madison Square Garden and literally be on the Knicks court the next day watching Gary Vee playing in the Coinbase event. Like they're all playing a basketball game of, all the major Coinbase investors and major crypto investors and big players in the NFTs and big influencers on TikTok and stuff. Like, the guys have like 10 million plus followers on TikTok and stuff. And I'm literally just there like hanging out. If you guys go to my Instagram, you'll see the picture I have with Gary there. And I'm just like, just from one email, my life has completely changed.
It's pretty sweet, man.
But you can also look at that in another way and be like, no, the work that I did to position myself to when I sent that email, and he would actually look at myself, because at the bottom of the email, I put my TikTok, and Gary is definitely the type of guy who's going to look at it and be like, all right, let's see if this guy really has posted 4 times a day for like the last 6 months. Right. He's like, okay, holy shit. Yeah, he really has. Okay, boom. Like, hey, come up here. Like, let's chat, And
let me stop you. You're right. It's not that the fortune was in your favor just for nothing. It's you put the work in, you listened and you grinded. I want to make sure that these episodes kind of have that. But look, man, you put it in, you put the work in. You came from a small town. You took a shot when people said you couldn't or you shouldn't, and you went to the big city. You went to LA, and you got hit with COVID, and it happened at that same time that you were able to say, you know what, I'm going to continue. I'm not going to go back home. I'm going to follow this path. I'm going to take the responsibility of self-educating in the meantime while I'm learning. I don't have to tell you, but I do the same thing at 40 at this point. Like, you're never going to stop. Just let you know. I'm in the gym listening to, something that's, just giving me the discipline, the motivation, and just growing my awareness of, what I should be doing, what I should be feeling, just there's so much more to than music motivating you. So like, I don't know, it's been a little minute for me to just listen to music in the gym, because I've just been on this like self development phase and everything, and kind of goes hand in hand with the products that I launch, besides the podcast. I'm not sure how much you know about me, but I help men and level up in their bodies as well as their mindset. And we're creating a course and a curriculum and things of that nature for them on a bigger scale. So I'm doing some speaking gigs as well, with a local mentor that I have here currently, which is pretty cool. So yeah, a lot of big stuff on my side, but I just see a lot of like my drive in you, which is really sweet. As a 21-year-old, I could just imagine what you're going to be by 30 and then 40. So, and then now we're going to kind of get into a little bit more about these IULs, and we'll talk about that path here. Without further ado, what the heck is an IUL?
Well, so basically, the way that I kind of explain it is it's an alternative way for you to be able to, have your money accrue interest without just having it sit in your traditional like bank account, your savings account, right? Because we all know that when you save money in the bank, you're earning like less than 1% interest. And so a lot of people want to be able to earn more of an interest, but at the same time, they still want their money to be safe. They don't want to put their money at risk. And so, the IUL is that account that you're able to put your money into. It's under the umbrella of life insurance. So because of that, you get to take advantage of other types of tax codes. Some of those tax codes, like tax code 72E, allows your money to accrue interest within the account, just like a Roth IRA, right? Also, you're able to access that money at any age, tax-free and penalty-free, because of the tax code 7702. One of the most crazy things that about the IUL that a lot of my clients really like and like to leverage is the uninterrupted compound interest. So with that, basically, you're able to borrow from your IUL, go put into like other income producing assets, or really anything. It doesn't have to be another income producing asset. And you're still going to be making money in the IUL like you never touched it. You're basically leveraging the life insurance carrier to spend the same dollar twice.
Hang on, guys. Let's stop right there. So you can put $20,000 into an IUL or whatever, and we're going to discuss, how much you should to, get the net gain that you're looking for. But let's just take a simple number, $20,000, throw that in an IUL, and then you say, you know what, I want to borrow $10,000 of that 20 that I have sitting in this account to go do whatever I want with it. Just to go put a down payment on a car or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You're saying that we can borrow 20,000 from that account. Or borrow 10, we could borrow 20 if we wanted to, I'm assuming, but maybe there's a penalty or a limit, but 10,000 of that, go throw it into a car. And am I still gaining interest on the 20%? I remember watching a video of yours where it said, like, if you took something out at, some percentage, it kind of takes away from, the vig that you'd make from that. So explain that.
Yeah. So like, let's just say, you didn't have the capital to start a supplement company, right? You didn't have $30,000 to just throw into that right away. Well, what you could do is just allocate X amount of dollars per month into the IUL. So pretty much the way that you'd kind of think about that is, okay, like how much money per month do I want to save? How much money per month do I want to have working for me, safely earning a predictable rate of return? Once you get that number, then you just, that number would be coming out every month. Eventually, over time, depending on how aggressive and how much money you're putting in per month, let's just say, over the course of a year, like a year and a half, now you have that $30,000 sitting in your IUL. Now you're like, nice, got that $30,000. Time for me to go ahead, take that money out of my IUL. Now I'm going to borrow from my IUL. Now, when I say borrow, you're not actually borrowing from your IUL. What you're really doing is you're taking a loan from the insurance carrier. Now you can go ahead and take out a loan from the insurance carrier up to the same amount of money you have in cash value. So you've paid in $30,000 into your IUL, you can take out a loan for $30,000. The insurance company is just going to use your money as collateral just so that they know you're good for the money, right? So now you're going to borrow at 2% interest.
Is now, it always 2%? Because you referenced that. And is it always 2% or is there a variable rate?
So yes, that is, it is locked in at 2% for one specific carrier that I'm talking about. But depending on your carrier, could be 2%, like 2 to 4% is kind of where it fluctuates between the two carriers that I really primarily work with. One's at 2%, one you borrow at 3%.
Okay.
And so you borrow that money at 2%. And again, with the insurance companies that I work with, they're uncapped. So you have that uncapped growth potential. A lot of people say that with the IUL, you really only accrue like 7 to 8%. Well, you're talking about the industry standard, which is a 9% cap, which just means that your growth gets capped at 9%. Stock market performs at 11% that year, you're only going to get credited 9%, right? But with the companies I work with, I specifically work with triple A plus rated companies. And so they're normally uncapped just because they're able to take on more risk, right? And so with that, then now you're netting 10%, right? Because you're going to be averaging 12% interest per year. That interest gets credited per year. So you were accruing an average of 12. You're now borrowing at 2. Your $30,000 is still going to be accruing and netting 10% interest inside the IUL. How is that? Well, you took $30,000 in the form of a loan from the insurance carrier. You never touched the $30,000 sitting in your IUL. So why would you stop earning interest on it? You know?
So let me get this right. And again, I want to make sure that we slow down because some people that follow me are probably in the fitness industry and I don't know how well their financials are. So,
yeah, sure.
I just heard him say you can borrow against, or you're going to take a loan against the cash value that you have in there. So it's collateral against the asset that you're taking out. Your asset still grows uninterrupted based on the terms that you originally put forth. So if you are gaining 9% or some uncapped percentage, whatever the market predicts it would make, it'll continue to make that. Your loan would be separate from that transaction. Although tied to, it would be completely separate and you'd be just paying 2% back to that insurance carrier for the loan. Did I get that right?
Yeah, there are options. You could have that 10% interest you're still netting on the 30,000. You could have that pay down the interest, or you could just pay it separately. You kind of have that option. So yeah.
Okay, right on. So I mean, talk to us about this IUL a little bit more. Why would they use it? Who's it for? I have life insurance. I have like either there's a term or there's a whole life policy. So, and sorry guys, I don't want to make an episode about life insurance, but this is sexy life insurance. Let me just put this out there. This is not like your standard term or whole life where you're just covered and you get some kind of big payday at the end of when you kick the bucket and leave your money to somebody else. This is something a little bit different. So the reason I saw it, because obviously I'm in the financial game, I trade and do all these fun stuff. And I thought this was an investment opportunity and something you might want to consider if it's not an asset that you currently have in your portfolio.
Yeah, no, for sure. So one thing I did just want to mention with the IUL, it's not an investment. It is life insurance. I have to make that clear just because you can kind of like get in trouble for kind of saying like it's an investment, but this is the way I kind of view it because investments, as we all know, carry risk and eventually you pay taxes on investments, right? Those two things. With the IUL, you don't pay taxes on it and there's no risk because of those floor rates, which is awesome. And so, yeah, really like who's it for, right? To kind of answer that question. With that, the IUL isn't perfect for everybody, right? If you're looking for just life insurance, the IUL is not for you. Because if you just want life insurance, if you want traditional life insurance, right? Like when I pass away, my kids get cut a check, right? If that's what you're looking for, just get term life. It's so much cheaper. If you want it to be permanent, just get whole life. It's so much cheaper. But if you want an alternative way to have your money tied to the stock market, if you want a vehicle that will act as a high yield savings account and be like a high yield savings account on steroids, that's what you would use IUL for. If you want a different type of retirement account where you can access the money at any age, tax-free and penalty-free, that's what the IUL is used for. So
you can't self-direct it, right? It's earning at, whatever the index is. Is that right?
No, you do have options. You could do, so it kind of depends on the company. There are different indexes that you can choose between. There's the global S&P 500, and normally a multi-index. And so what the multi-index is, it's just comprised of 3 index funds, which normally is the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones, all bundled together in one multi-index. And so they have different options for you. So you could do like S&P 500 uncapped, or you could do like multi-index, 15% cap. There are many different options. So yeah, you do get to choose. You kind of have that conversation with your agent and kind of decide, how do you want to position yourself? You want to be in this index? You want to be in the global index? Do you want the uncapped index? What are you looking for?
And what would be my choices? I mean, essentially it's earning some yield. And what happens in a down market? Like right now, everyone's freaking thinking everything's going to fall apart, and we could discuss that as well.
Yeah.
But how does that affect when
Yeah.
the S&P falls? Like today it was down 2-3%, et cetera, and then the market's just going to tank from here if it goes that route. How does the IUL stand up against that?
Yeah, for sure. So there is a 0% floor. So for those of you who aren't familiar with what a 0% floor is, basically what that means is just that you're unable to lose money due to market volatility, right? So pretty much the stock market goes up and up and up and then kind of down and up and up and then down. So every time it goes up, you participate with that upward trend. Whenever it goes down, you don't lose. You just stay the same.
And again, we're talking about the yield that you return on the money that you invested. Your dollars will never come below, correct? Like the premium that you put in can never lose its value. We're only talking about the yield that we're making on, either the uncapped index fund and return versus, a capped return. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. So again, let's talk about the avatar who needs this. This is probably someone for the wealthy, somebody who's got a little bit extra money where they're going to probably be using their money in certain ways. Would they be using it for, death benefits? Or are they using it more to, position their allocation of money in a way that's, almost like a tax shelter in some capacity and give them a little bit more flexibility?
That's exactly what I was going to say. So, yeah, definitely as a tax shelter, it kind of depends on the demographic of the person, right? What are their needs, right? But really, what I would say the optimum person that the IUL is really meant for is that person who finally is now not living paycheck to paycheck anymore, right? Now they're, they find themselves being able to save $200, $500, maybe $1,000 a month. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you're really in debt, and you have a bunch of college loans, you got credit card debt, you have car notes you're trying to pay down and all this stuff, and you're really just, really kind of struggling. You want to take care of all that stuff first. Really, as soon as you find yourself in the position where you're like, nice, I'm finally saving money every month. Well, hey, instead of having that money sitting in a savings account earning less than 1% interest, even though the inflation rate's at 8.5%, your money is losing its spending power. It's losing its purchasing power because, everything's going up in price. You're able to purchase less and less and less with the same exact amount of money. Then why don't you put that money to work for you? Why don't you have that money outpace inflation? And again, I'm definitely not saying only put your money into an IUL.
Mm-hmm.
I would spread it around. Like myself, I have crypto. I have money in the stock market, but I definitely have a lot of money in my 2 IULs as well. And that's because, if, the stock market collapses, the money I have in crypto is going to lose. The money I have in the stock market, I'm going to lose it, right? But at least I know in the back of my mind that all the money that I have sitting in my IUL, no matter what happens, that money will be there. And I have access to it.
Can you put that money in there, Ryan, tax free, for right out of your paycheck, or does it have to get taxed first?
Has to get taxed first.
So it's like a Roth IRA. So it's like, same vehicle. It's a Roth IRA. It's a post-tax dollars that you're investing in there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There's probably some cool strategies that you can use. I think you were spitting something on TikTok about, some of these investors, especially bigger investors, how do they can go about, using these accounts to, again, leverage non-taxable, let me think about this. Let's just say now it's a couple $100,000. Maybe can we use and leverage this more like an investment vehicle? I mean, I think you said that you can, right? Because it's your money. It's just growing tax deferred or tax free, right? It won't ever be taxed. But then I could borrow against that. So essentially, it's going to be your, I'm trying to think of, is there a better name I'm thinking about this thing? I mean, it is an IUL.
Like,
It's, I don't know why
yeah.
it's tied to life insurance. Why is it tied to life insurance? Does
Oh,
that
well,
just give it
yeah.
the
So yeah,
flexibility?
yeah. So the main reason why the IUL has all these perks that the Roth IRA doesn't have, that the 401k doesn't have, that the stock market doesn't have, is that the fact that the IUL is a contract, right? And so with that, you're under the umbrella of life insurance. So because you're under the umbrella of life insurance, now you're under a completely different set of rules and regulations compared to any other type of financial vehicle. And again, that's why you get to leverage that tax code 72E, which allows that money to accumulate interest tax free, which is why you get to access that tax code 7702, which allows you to, take that money out of there, tax free and penalty free, which is why you have a floor rate, because the floor rate is written into the contract, where basically the insurance carrier is saying that you will never lose your money due to market volatility. That's in the contract, right? So that's why all those things are so foreign to us, is because when we're putting our money into a Roth IRA or 401k or into index funds or mutual funds or directly into the stock market, you're not signing a contract with Vanguard and with Fidelity and all those companies and saying like, yeah, my money is safe, there's no way I'm going to lose it. I can't take out a loan from Vanguard and have them just keep my money in that I have with their index funds as collateral while I go use it. Like all those types of different types of things. It's unique to life insurance, and which is why it's so foreign to a lot of people. Because like we had just mentioned, this is sexy life insurance. People have never heard of this before, because when 9 times out of 10, when they hear life insurance, they want to like throw up in their mouth, because they think of the traditional life insurance. When I die, my kids get cut a check, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like, 1/10 of what life insurance actually is. The reason why it's called life insurance is because, you're supposed to utilize it and leverage it while you're still alive.
Unlike the money we just throw out the door to, whether the term or whole life policy, that, it gives us a multiplier, right? So I have a couple $1 million policy, and it gives us that multiplier effect for, a little bit put out, but over time, depending if you die within that term or if you're doing a whole life, it's a little bit longer and you've invested into that vehicle. This would just be your investments now going to compound and grow based on, whatever percentages or the index that are out there. So there's no multiplier at the end of this though, right? It's whatever you put in is what you're going to get as far as a benefit at the end, plus compound
Um,
interest.
Plus compound interest. But actually, I'm glad you brought that up, the multiplier. Certain companies do offer multipliers. So, for example, if you earn 10% interest on the money that you have sitting inside your IUL, if you have a rider that you implement a multiplier, the multiplier is for the specific company that I have that offers a multiplier, it's 2.7. So you take your interest rate and multiply that by 2.7, and that's the interest you're actually going to get for that year. And that's every single year for the life of your policy. Because when you went into the policy, we were, we talk about all the options and stuff. And, we'll mention, hey, like there's this multiplier that you could add to your policy, and you could implement those. You can implement things like living death benefit. So if you ever become, critically ill or chronically ill or terminally ill, you can access your death benefit to help pay for the cost of living, because you're going to be out of work more than likely. And if you're the main breadwinner, bills still need to get paid and stuff. Medical bills still need to get paid and stuff. So you're able to tap into that death benefit and use that while you're still alive.
So it's almost like is it HSA, right? Health services account. Is that what it's called? Or there's a specific vehicle that you pay your insurance with. What is that called?
I think you're talking about long-term care.
No, it's like, people invest into, I think it's called the HSA, health services account or something, where it's basically they could take their money, put it into an account, and it pays their medical bills and different things. But we'll move past that. So let me ask you this: how are people going to go about finding this out? Where can they go to research this information, or should they come directly to you? I know that you have a YouTube channel, you got an Instagram channel, you also have a TikTok. And since you're going to be conquering the United States here, you serve
Yeah.
Do you service all 50 states yet, or you're working on that?
All 50 states. All 50 states. Yeah, we service the whole nation. Right now, we have 46 agents that are in our company. And so really to find us, I mean, in terms of doing your own research, I definitely recommend that everyone like does their due diligence, does some research, YouTube, Google, all those types of things. But if you kind of want to see the content that I produce, yeah, you can go to TikTok. It's just rush.financial strategies is the name of my company. And that's the exact same name on YouTube, the exact same name on Instagram. So the same name all across the board. But yeah, I mean, if after the information you kind of heard today, you're kind of looking, or, maybe the things that we talked about intrigued you at all, you can definitely reach out, and we'd love to take care of you and kind of help educate you on these different, avenues and like vehicles.
Check the show notes. We'll make sure that all the information is sitting there for you guys, so you guys could contact Ryan or just learn more about this. We'll put some information there, and take it from there. So what is the main channel that you want people to go to? You want them to go to Instagram? You want them to TikTok? What is that channel that we want to direct traffic to? If you're lazy and you don't want to click the show notes and you just want to hear it through the airways, where can he find you?
Yeah, just go to TikTok and just go to rush.financial strategies, and you'll
There you go.
find